Hey everyone. Um, just here from Blades and Blasters. This is Tetnock. Just wanted to talk really briefly here in the middle of the day about something that I've been getting some questions about lately, and that's some questions about how I basically set up my games when I'm the GM. This could help other people out there. I don't know. If so, that's great. This talk is specifically geared towards doing it on Roll20. I'm not going to talk about the technical aspects of that, just kind of like the theoretical ways that I set up my stuff. And I'll talk about why that is. So there's three different types of games that I do. Obviously a full campaign, then an episodic type of campaign, and then a one shot. Based on how what the game is, it's set up very differently. So the first thing we'll talk about is one shots. One shots are the most difficult games to set up for me. It's because you want to keep one shots confined into one session, and depending on our group, we like to keep the sessions around 3 hours, particularly because of when our start time is for people on the East Coast, and so we don't like to go over 3 hours. Even 2.5 hours is good too. 2.5 to 3 hours is very good for us. We tend to gravitate towards that. However, one shots are difficult to do that because you need a specific ending in mind. So if you need a specific ending in mind, you must get through everything in the session to get there. And this causes two problems. Either number one, you're pushing the session forward hard as a GM and potentially truncating the role play that you might want to develop in that session. Now, when I do one shots, it's usually as a test for the system, but you also want to have fun and you want to have good role play in that session as well. So if you're pushing people to finish their role play faster, it leaves sometimes players unsatisfied and the game unsatisfied too, really, for whatever you're doing. So that's the first problem with doing a one shot. You can do that, or your game ends up being for 4.5 hours if you don't pace it correctly. And pacing for me is difficult. To look at something that you're putting together and trying to determine how long that is going to take. I'm not very good at that. So you can end up where you have sessions that are very long. So you have those two very unique situations in a one shot that you must account for. And so how do I do it? Well, it's kind of similar to how I do episodic campaigns, in that I put this one shot together, and it looks like a series of hills and valleys. The valleys are role play centric scenes, or kind of downtime, quote unquote, and the spikes, the hills, are more either combats or some sort of friction, conflict, whatever you want to say. It doesn't have to be between characters. It could be an environmental task, blah, 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 blah. As I go, and in one shots, none of those can be deterministic for the ending. You have to be able to get to the ending without those things, if you see them or not, because in session you have to judge, am I going to be able to finish this in time based on what the ending is? And so you can eliminate some of those peaks and just go on to the end. So that is an important way to do one-shots for me. That's how I do them. So I can cut out what I need to. Similar in episodic campaigns. Episodic campaigns are similar, but not exactly the same. Episodic campaigns, I don't have to remove any of the hills. I can just stop on one of the hills, either before or after. So say, for instance, I have a situation where the players need to disrupt satellite dish communications. They can go and, but at the end, they have some big fight planned. Their first task that is dependent on the end task, they can finish that, and then for 3 hours, well, okay, now it's time to stop. So episodic games, you can actually see everything that you want, but at the same time, end whenever you want, before or after one of those things. And then an episodic campaign, you don't need the same players, you don't need the same characters to continue. And this is one thing I'll stress for people that are watching this, even people on Blades and Blasters. And I think there's a misconception of what episodic campaigns are. We know that episodic campaigns are a series of generally one-shots that are connected through a central theme with similar players and some of the same characters. That's universally known. But if your game requires the same players to bridge from one session to the next, it's not an episodic campaign, it's just a campaign. Because you cannot not have that in an episodic campaign. It ruins the entire, what it's supposed to be. So that's not, that is not an episodic campaign. It's not. Some settings are easier to do that than others. Sci-fi, modern, very easy to set up that episodic campaign because travel's not an issue. You can fly people in, you can fly people out, you can move people in, you move people out very easily. Fantasy, it's harder. You got to be a little smarter about it. And I've not run a fantasy episodic campaign, right? I've just done my episodic campaign is Mutants and Masterminds, and it's a cosmic superhero game, so they can easily move in and out. So keep that in mind when you're setting up your episodic campaigns. Normal campaigns I do completely different. 100%. This is many campaigns or completely full campaigns. So this Conan game that I'm running was my big experiment with this. And I simply set up everything ahead of time. I set up, well, not everything, but 85% of everything ahead of time. So this includes maps, NPCs, plots, etc. Things can evolve as we go. It's a combination of sandbox and plot driven. The plot is yours to find, and if you want to grab onto that one plot and follow it, that's great. It's you can look at it as like a video game, right? You look at a video game and you have your one plot and your many side plots. It's no different. Some of those side plots do bolster you for the main plot, make you, however you set it up. But that's generally how I do it and how I will do it probably from now on, because it's just so much easier. It does take a lot of work at the beginning, but while the game's running, it takes no work or little to no work. And that is an incredible benefit to me personally. And I'm sure it would be incredible benefit to others. Number one, I don't have to sit there and say, okay, next week I have to get the session ready. Spend 6 hours to do so. I don't have to do that. I'm like, okay, is everything I need in place? Okay, I might need to tweak this. I might need to add this. I might need to do this. It takes, what, half an hour maybe? So while you're running the game, it increases your need to work on those things dramatically. And you can work on other things. You can do your next campaign. You can work on that instead. Work on one-shots. Work on episodic campaigns. It lets you run more games concurrently. Yeah, because if you have you have 1 day worth of time, let's say 8 hours in a week that you can work on games, well, if you've got one campaign that you're doing that for every week, you got one campaign you can run. You got one thing you can run. Otherwise, you got nothing. Otherwise you can do as many as you can fit. So, and that you have time to run, or just build them for the future. So, I think it's a great benefit, and it's not hard once you get the first one out of the way, right? Because once you get the first one out of the way, then when you're running that first one, the next one that you're going to run, instead of spending time on your campaign that you're currently running to build, you're building the next one. So it's very easy. So it's a mix of sandbox and plot driven, but it's very very open. And as far as stopping, you can stop whenever you want. You don't need to necessarily have a valley or a hill, although usually that's typically how it ends or begins anyway. After a big fight, before a big fight, after a big lengthy role play scene where something dramatic happens before that, it doesn't really matter. But it's complete freedom. You want to stop after 2 hours, you can stop after 2 hours. You want to stop after 3 hours, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, those are the easiest games to prep for and run. One-shots are extremely difficult in my view. And in my view, one-shots are not worth the time and effort typically. So to each their own, right? But yeah, that is how I do it. More specifics, right? I mean, we can get into that of roll 20 specifics, how I do things, how do I make more things efficient, that sort of thing. But as far as the generalized, how the session runs in between a session, that's what I try to do. It gives me the most flexibility for how long I want to be in a session. It gives me the most flexibility for my prep time for those games, and that sort of thing. And it gives me a lot of flexibility once I'm in the game. At least the campaigns do, and the episodics do too. Because even episodics, I build a lot of things out ahead of time, maps, slides, NPCs. I don't need to do that every time. So yeah, so my suggestion is think about that. Think about if that is, would help you, and think about the things that I told you how it's helped me, time saving, that sort of thing, being able to run more games. So that's the way I do it. And I think if you follow these general critiques, you will be able to run your games in the time frame that you want to run them. If you're going to run 5-hour games, sessions at a time, then don't worry about what I'm saying. Just do what you're going to do, because you're going to run 5-hour sessions. You're probably going to get everything you had in mind done. But if you're running 3-hour sessions or even less, then think about this and see if you can work these into your games and see if they help you at all. See if it's right for you and your games. Here at B&B, we do things. The GMs do things differently, so this is not really the GMs of B&B necessarily speaking to you. Although I think a lot of them are adopting this general ideology. Some are not, and I can tell, right? I can tell this. Because to me, the flaws of session-to-session building and having a discrete end to that session, what I'm saying about being rushed through the session or the session taking extreme amount of time, those things hold true. And if that's what you want as a GM and you're willing to do that and your players don't mind, then whatever, right? But if you want to cultivate very deep, large role play in your sessions, then you cannot push. You have to let things organically move, and you as a GM have to set those ways to move the story forward naturally. In some instances, sometimes you can come down with the GM hammer and insert something and force players to react, but having them do it naturally is also a very valid way. Push them kind of, with subtle clues and just how your game is set up to where you want them to go, instead of saying, okay, the next day is and you're here. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on how I make a session and how I run the sessions. Onto a really quick topic of B&B in general. We have several recruits going through the recruitment process currently. Good luck to all of them. You will be seeing them in our game soon, so please have patience with what you might see. Might be a little different than what you're normally used to. Hopefully we'll have everybody on a pretty same page here soon, and recruitment will be over, and hopefully we'll have several new players amongst our midst. And then maybe we'll do another cycle soon. I don't know. I guess it depends how many people actually end up sticking. So we do have our fan server, as I mentioned. Blades and Blasters fan club can be seen on the link at the front of our YouTube page. Go there. Come on in, chat with us, even if you don't have any desire to play with us or can't due to time or whatever. But yeah, if you also do want to play with us, please follow that link and contact a moderator or an administrator, and we will set you up and give you the guidelines of what to do. We have a bot that should also lead you to where you need to go. So thanks for watching, and I hope this video was helpful for anyone who is wondering how we at Blades and Blasters, or myself, Tetnock, sets up their games. Hopefully that is helpful to you, and I will see you next time. We have this week is pretty full for games. Tonight, Shadows of the Demon Lord. That's Wednesday. Fake Core by Demi, which is the second part of a one-shot that was a long time ago that's getting finished. I believe Thursday is the first session of Hollow Earth Expedition. And I don't know the rest of the schedule because I would have to look it up, but there are games pretty much all this week. I believe 5 or 6 days in a row. I know Sunday is Conan. Yeah, Zweihander is Friday. Yeah, I think so. Zweihander is Friday. Saturday is Dark Ages Vampire by Matihi, which I will miss, and I'm gonna be sad. Today, Shadows of the Demon Lord. Tomorrow, Fate. Thursday, Hollow Earth Expedition, Session 1. Friday, Zweihander. Saturday, Dark Ages Vampire. Sunday, Conan 2D20. So that's what we've got coming on Blades and Blasters. Pretty packed week here coming up. Yesterday we had a day off, but we're back at it. Then the next week, I believe you're going to see more games. I don't know exactly what games are being run. I know that Mutineer Zero will be run on Wednesday, I believe. But yeah, look, just keep an eye out for games that are coming. I think we are scheduled for 18 games this month so far, with several open spots for one-shots and stuff for our recruits. So you probably will see a packed month for us. So tune in and hopefully enjoy yourself. If you're interested in getting to know us better, please go to our Discord fan club, and we'll talk to you there. Thanks.